People often think today's celebrities live exciting lives, but the stars of Hollywood's golden age were just as wild. During this time, famous actresses dated whoever they wanted, and the men in show business did the same. Almost everyone in Hollywood seemed to be having romantic adventures, and if you weren't invited to big Hollywood parties, you probably weren't very important. Stars had so many different partners that they sometimes had trouble keeping track of all their relationships. Let's explore the lives of some classic Hollywood stars who had many romantic partners. Ava Gardner. Ava Gardner was so beautiful that famous singer Frank Sinatra wrote songs about her, but he wasn't the only man who fell for her charm. In the early 1940s, she was married for a short time to actor Mickey Rooney. Later, Rooney bragged about how wonderful their relationship was, but Gardner told everyone that while he might have enjoyed their time together, she certainly didn't. Gardner was also involved with the strange and super-rich Howard Hughes and jazz musician Artie Shaw before marrying Frank Sinatra in 1951. Later, she had a relationship with famous writer Ernest Hemingway while on vacation in Cuba. It would be impossible to count exactly how many men Gardner dated because the ones we just mentioned are only a small part of her romantic history. Gardner's stunning looks and confident personality made her irresistible to many men in Hollywood. She moved through life on her own terms, never apologizing for her choices or lifestyle. In an era when women were expected to be proper and reserved, Gardner lived by her own rules. Elizabeth Taylor. Elizabeth Taylor was famous both for her acting talent and her striking beauty, especially her unusual violet eyes. Taylor was also known as one of the most talked-about women in show business during her time. Perhaps her most controversial moment happened when she began dating singer Eddie Fisher, while he was still married to her best friend, actress Debbie Reynolds. Taylor and Fisher eventually got married after he ended his marriage with Reynolds. Although they later divorced, Taylor felt terrible about what she had done to her best friend and offered Reynolds a heartfelt apology. Fortunately, the damage wasn't permanent, and the two became friends again and remained close throughout their lives. During her lifetime, Taylor was married 7 times to 6 different men. She married actor Richard Burton twice. After getting divorced for the last time in 1996 from construction worker Larry Fortensky, she decided enough was enough and remained single until she passed away in 2011. Taylor's personal life often received more attention than her professional achievements, which included 2 Academy Awards. Despite the constant focus on her marriages and relationships, Taylor maintained her dignity and eventually became a powerful advocate for AIDS research, raising millions of dollars for the cause. 3. Vivian Lee. Vivian Lee is best known for playing Scarlett O'Hara in Gone with the Wind and Blanche Dubois in A Streetcar Named Desire. She was stunningly beautiful and irresistible to the leading men she worked with on screen. Success didn't come easily for Lee, and her famous marriage to Sir Laurence Olivier was full of problems. When she first saw Olivier performing in a play, she told her friend that he was the man she was destined to marry someday, despite already being married to her first husband, Herbert Lee Holman. For Lee, people seemed disposable. She was willing to do anything to get what she wanted, regardless of who got hurt in the process. Olivier was also married when he caught Lee's attention, but that didn't stop her from following him and his wife when they vacationed in Capri. Lee and Olivier ended up starting a relationship even though his wife, Jill Esmond, was pregnant. Olivier left Esmond and married Lee shortly afterward. After divorcing Olivier in 1960, Lee dated actor John Merivale for 7 years before passing away in 1967 from tuberculosis. Other men Lee was linked to included Marlon Brando, Elia Kazan, Orson Welles, Justin Mitchell, Alexander Korda, Stuart Granger, and Peter O'Toole. What many people don't know is that Lee struggled with mental illness throughout much of her adult life. Her behavior, which sometimes seemed erratic or impulsive, was likely influenced by what we would now recognize as bipolar disorder. In her time, there weren't effective treatments for this condition, which added to the difficulties in her personal life. 4. Talula Bankhead. Talula Bankhead was drop-dead gorgeous, witty, rebellious, and not afraid to speak her mind, even if her words offended people around her. Bankhead was one of the most famous sex symbols of her day. Writer and actor Emlyn Williams once described her sultry voice as being as steeped in sex as the human voice could possibly go without drowning. She was known for her many relationships and had what seemed like a bottomless appetite for romance. Bankhead struggled with drug and alcohol problems and reportedly smoked as many as 120 cigarettes a day, but she wasn't shy about openly discussing her many vices. She was openly bisexual at a time when that sexual orientation wasn't widely accepted. In an interview with Motion Picture magazine in 1932, Bankhead bragged that she hadn't had a relationship in 6 months, complaining that was 6 months too long. After the release of the Kinsey Reports, famous studies about human sexual behavior, Talula was quoted as saying she didn't find anything shocking about Alfred Kinsey's conclusions. She explained that she had numerous brief love affairs that she entered into impulsively. In 1933, Bankhead almost died after having a 5-hour emergency hysterectomy due to a serious illness. When she left the hospital, she told the doctor he shouldn't assume she had learned any lesson from the ordeal. The New Yorker reported that Bankhead claimed she had been with roughly 500 people in her life. In addition to her many relationships with male stars, Talula was also linked romantically with female celebrities like Greta Garbo, Hattie McDaniel, Beatrice Lillie, and Marlene Dietrich. 5. Jane Mansfield. Jane Mansfield, aside from Mae West, was probably one of the most daring and romantically active actresses in Hollywood history. The blonde bombshell who was famously photographed giving Sophia Loren an eyeful of her impressive figure had countless admirers. She was even rumored to have been President John F. Kennedy's girlfriend for a while. Her most infamous relationship was with Church of Satan founder Anton LaVey, although LaVey only publicly claimed he had a relationship with her after the actress had passed away. Mansfield was known for her platinum blonde hair, hourglass figure, and publicity stunts that kept her name in the headlines. She was one of the early Playboy playmates and parlayed that fame into a movie career. While she was sometimes dismissed as merely a Marilyn Monroe copy, Mansfield had her own unique appeal and was actually quite intelligent, reportedly having an IQ of 163 and speaking 5 languages. Her life was cut tragically short when she died in a car accident at age 34, but in her brief time in the spotlight, she lived a life full of romance, glamour, and headline-grabbing adventures. 6. Mae West. Another blonde bombshell who deserves mention is Brooklyn-born actress Mae West, who took Hollywood by storm in the early 1930s with her deliberately provocative image. She was ahead of her time. She supported gay rights, had African-American partners, and openly ridiculed traditional marriage. When West was 17, she married vaudeville actor Frank Wallace, who performed under the stage name Frank Wallace. She tried to keep that marriage a secret, but it was revealed to the public when a filing clerk discovered the marriage certificate and promptly alerted the press. West divorced Wallace in 1942. While Wallace was the only person West ever married, she was well known for having many romantic partners. One of her most famous lovers was Paul Novak, who she claimed was the love of her life. West was famous for her witty one-liners and double entendres that managed to slip past the strict censors of her day. Lines like, "When I'm good, I'm very good, but when I'm bad, I'm better," and "Is that a pistol in your pocket, or are you just happy to see me?" made her a star, but also made her a target for those who considered her too risque for public entertainment. Despite the controversy, West maintained control of her career in a way few women of her era did. She wrote many of her own scripts and stage shows, carefully crafting her public image as a strong, sexually confident woman who didn't need a man to define her worth. Esmeralda Lupe Velez. Known by some as the Mexican Spitfire, Lupe Velez had a tragic end to her colorful life. Sadly, there were rumors about her death that weren't true, showing how Hollywood gossip could be cruel. According to her secretary, the truth about her passing was different from what the rumors claimed. Velez was tied to actor Gary Cooper, whom she dated for many years and referred to as the love of her life. She was reportedly extremely jealous and repeatedly accused Cooper of having affairs with other people. Lupe was known for her fiery personality and bold behavior. She was known to be quite open about her body and romantic life. It's rumored she had hundreds of partners throughout her lifetime. Velez had a successful career in Hollywood during the 1920s and 1930s, starring in many films including a series of Mexican Spitfire comedies where she played the fiery Carmelita. Her passionate personality extended to her personal life, where her tempestuous relationships often made headlines. Despite her sometimes wild behavior, Velez was a talented actress whose performances brought joy to many moviegoers. Her legacy goes beyond gossip and rumors that sometimes overshadowed her work. 8. Clara Bo. Clara Bo was Hollywood's it girl of the silent film era, and one of the film industry's first major stars. But by the time she retired from acting at age 28 in 1931, her life was already surrounded by scandal. It's rumored she had relationships with many people, and she routinely treated her boyfriends as engagements, which only created controversy when she would promptly move on to the next one. Bo came from a difficult background. Poverty and family mental illness had marked her early years. Her rise to stardom was something of a fairy tale, as she won a magazine contest that brought her to Hollywood. Her expressive eyes and natural acting style made her perfect for silent films, and her flapper image captured the spirit of the 1920s. The transition to sound films was difficult for many silent stars, but Bo actually had a good voice for talkies. However, the stress of fame, ongoing family problems, and the pressures of Hollywood life took their toll. After several successful sound films, she chose to retire, married actor Rex Bell, and largely retreated from public life. Despite her short career, Bo's influence on film and fashion was enormous. She defined the image of the 1920s flapper and brought a naturalistic acting style to the screen that influenced generations of actresses who followed. 9. Louise Brooks. Louise Brooks had an incredibly brief yet influential film career. After leaving her first husband, director Eddie Sutherland, she fell for George Preston Marshall, the owner of the Washington Redskins football team. She eventually left him to marry someone else, whom she likewise left, after only being married for 6 months. Brooks had many romantic partners, including reportedly actress Greta Garbo, and wasn't opposed to posing without clothes, something she'd frequently do. What made Brooks special was her distinctive look. Her black, bobbed haircut with straight bangs created a style that is still copied today. She was most famous for her German films directed by G.W. Pabst, especially Pandora's Box, where she played Lulu, an amoral woman whose sexuality leads to disaster for those around her. Brooks abandoned Hollywood at the height of her fame, choosing artistic fulfillment in European films over commercial success in America. When she returned to the U.S., she found herself blacklisted for having refused to complete her contract with Paramount Pictures. After her film career ended, Brooks spent years in obscurity, working as a sales clerk and call girl, before being rediscovered by film historians in the 1950s. She then became a respected film writer, penning insightful essays about her time in Hollywood. Today, she's recognized as one of the great screen icons of the silent era, with her influence extending far beyond her brief time as an actress. 10. Dorothy Arsner. Dorothy Arsner was the only female director in Hollywood in her day. She directed almost 24 films over the course of 24 years, and was the first woman granted membership to the Directors Guild Association. Arsner was close friends with Francis Ford Coppola, and is often credited with teaching him the filmmaking ropes. She spent the last 40 years of her life living with her partner, choreographer and screenwriter Marion Morgan. It's alleged she also had relationships with women like Joan Crawford, Ala Nazimova, Billy Burke, and Ona Munson. What makes Arsner remarkable is not just her romantic life, but her groundbreaking career achievements. At a time when women weren't expected to be behind the camera, she directed Hollywood stars like Katharine Hepburn, Rosalind Russell, and Lucille Ball. She invented the first boom microphone by attaching a microphone to a fishing rod when a technical problem arose during filming. Arsner's films often featured strong female characters who defied traditional gender roles, women who chose career over marriage, or who refused to be defined by their relationships with men. This feminist perspective was revolutionary for its time and has made her an important figure in film history. After leaving Hollywood, Arsner taught filmmaking at UCLA, where she mentored a new generation of directors, including the young Francis Ford Coppola. 11th. Hattie McDaniel and Talula Bankhead. Hattie McDaniel is best known for being the first African-American to win an Oscar for her role in 1939's Gone with the Wind. Talula Bankhead was primarily a stage actress, though she did appear in several films including Alfred Hitchcock's Lifeboat in 1944. In her private life, Bankhead struggled with substance abuse and reportedly smoked as many as 120 cigarettes a day. She was a remarkably straightforward woman who wasn't afraid to openly discuss her vices. Another thing she was very candid about was her numerous relationships with both men and women. Bankhead refused to label herself as bisexual. Instead, she preferred to use the term ambisexual to describe her sexuality. Some of the women she's been romantically linked to include Greta Garbo, Billie Holiday, Beatrice Lillie, Marlene Dietrich, and Hattie McDaniel. In Kenneth Anger's 1965 Hollywood exposé, Hollywood Babylon, he claimed Bankhead and McDaniel were romantic items. The rumors of their alleged relationship had persisted for years before that. While it's not known for certain that the two ever shared a romantic relationship, it certainly seems likely they did at some point. Their supposed relationship was notable not only for being an early example of a same-sex romance in Hollywood, but also for crossing racial boundaries at a time when interracial relationships faced severe social disapproval and legal barriers. McDaniel herself made history as the first African-American to win an Academy Award, though she was forced to sit at a segregated table during the ceremony. Throughout her career, she faced criticism from some in the black community for playing stereotypical maid roles, to which she famously responded, "I'd rather play a maid and make $700 a week than be a maid and make $7." 12th. Barbara Stanwyck. Throughout her 6-decade-spanning career as a stage, film, and TV actress, Barbara Stanwyck was known for her versatility and strong, authentic screen presence. She was a favorite of some of old Hollywood's most prestigious directors, including Frank Capra, Cecil B. DeMille, and Fritz Lang. She got her start as a Ziegfeld girl in the early 1920s. After performing on Broadway for several years, she transitioned to film when she was cast in Frank Capra's 1930 talkie, Ladies of Leisure. After that, she went on to star in 85 films and many television shows. Although she married twice, first to Frank Fay and later to Robert Taylor, Stanwick was reportedly a closeted lesbian who buried her secret deep beneath her public image. While we can't confirm this with certainty, there is evidence that seems to suggest it. It's also very likely her publicist, Helen Ferguson, was the love of her life. Even if she wasn't a lesbian, Stanwick's on- and off-screen persona has led her to become a gay icon of sorts. Stanwick was remarkable for her range as an actress, playing everything from tough-talking dames in pre-code films like Babyface to femme fatales in film noir classics like Double Indemnity to comedic roles in screwball comedies like The Lady Eve. Unlike many actresses of her era, she never allowed herself to be typecast. She was also known for her professionalism and work ethic. She rarely turned down roles, saying, "I'm a tough old broad from Brooklyn. I intend to go on acting until I'm 90, and they won't need to paste my face with makeup." True to her word, she worked well into her 70s, transitioning to television where she won 3 Emmy Awards. 13. Joan Crawford. Joan Crawford is known for her roles in films like Mildred Pierce, Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, and Autumn Leaves. Crawford is also infamous for her difficult relationships with her 2 oldest children, Christina and Christopher. After Joan's death in 1977, Christina wrote a tell-all memoir called Mommy Dearest, detailing her mother's alleged abuse. In 1981, it was adapted into a film by the same name, which starred Faye Dunaway. For some reason, Crawford's bisexuality is hardly ever mentioned, even though she had a reputation for being somewhat of a man-eater. It's long been known she was bisexual. It's been reported she had romances with women like Marilyn Monroe, Martha Ray, Barbara Stanwyck, and Marion Morgan. Crawford's life story is one of remarkable ambition and reinvention. Born Lucille LeSueur into poverty, she worked as a dancer before being discovered by MGM. She fought for better roles throughout her career and successfully navigated the transition from silent films to talkies, and later from ingenue to mature character roles, transitions that ended many careers. Her personal style became iconic. The strong shoulders, the exaggerated eyebrows, the large mouth emphasized with lipstick. When she felt MGM wasn't giving her good roles, she orchestrated a move to Warner Brothers and won an Oscar shortly thereafter. While Mommy Dearest has colored public perception of Crawford, many of her colleagues remembered her as hardworking, professional, and generous. She was known for personally answering her fan mail and for sending gifts and notes of encouragement to other actors. 14. Greta Garbo. While Garbo dated dozens of men throughout her life, unlike other women featured here, she never married any of them. When she was 19, while working on a largely forgotten German film shortly before finding her way to the States, she reportedly had a romance with Marlene Dietrich. After their relationship soured, Garbo was so hurt by Marlene that she denied ever knowing her for the rest of her life. After moving to Hollywood, she had a romantic relationship with writer and actress Salka Viertel, who introduced her to Mercedes de Acosta. Other women Garbo supposedly had relationships with include Louise Brooks, Lillian Tashman, and Billie Holiday. Garbo was famous for her desire for privacy, summed up in her famous quote, "I want to be alone." She retired from films at the age of 35 after appearing in 28 movies, and lived the remaining 49 years of her life largely out of the public eye. Her mystique was enhanced by her refusal to give interviews, attend Hollywood premieres, or even sign autographs. On screen, Garbo projected a complex blend of sensuality and sorrow that captivated audiences. Her face was considered so perfect that close-ups of her became known as Garbo shots. Despite retiring early, her influence on film and fashion has been enormous. Her androgynous style, wearing pants, simple lines, and minimal accessories, was revolutionary for women's fashion in the 1930s. 15th, Katharine Hepburn. When she was still a kid, Hepburn reportedly shaved her head and started going by the name Jimmy. As she grew into a world-famous Hollywood superstar, she retained her affinity for boyish attire. More often than not, Hepburn was seen wearing pants at a time when such a wardrobe choice was considered shocking and taboo. Interestingly, her only husband, Ludlow Ogden Smith, was also reportedly bisexual, and there's evidence to suggest her notorious affair with Howard Hughes was likely a publicity stunt. Some of her alleged romantic partners include Irene Mayer Selznick, Laura Harding, Jane Loring, Billy Burke, Judy Hollywood, and Alyssa Landy. Hepburn's independence extended far beyond her fashion choices. In an era when the studio system controlled every aspect of stars' lives, she refused to play the Hollywood game. She didn't wear makeup off-screen, didn't pose for pin-up photos, and refused to participate in the usual publicity activities. When her box office poison status in the late 1930s threatened her career, she didn't compromise her principles. Instead, she returned to Broadway, starred in The Philadelphia Story, bought the film rights, and used them to engineer her Hollywood comeback on her own terms. Her 26-year relationship with Spencer Tracy, though he remained married to another woman throughout, was one of Hollywood's great love stories. She never publicly discussed their relationship until after both Tracy and his wife had died, showing her respect for their privacy. 16. Alla Nazimova. Alla Nazimova was an actress, director, and producer who was openly bisexual and regularly had relationships with women while being married to Sergei Golovin. On Sunset Boulevard, she founded the Garden of Allah Hotel, which became a popular retreat for queer stars of the time. She also coined the expression the sewing circle as a code word for bisexual, bi-curious, and lesbian actresses. Some of her romantic partners included John Acker, Natasha Rambova, Dolly Wilde, Grace Darmond, and Gleska Marshall. She lived with Marshall from 1929 until her death in 1945. Nazimova began her career as a theater actress in Russia before coming to America, where she became one of Broadway's biggest stars. Her transition to film made her one of the highest-paid actresses of the silent era, earning $13,000 per week, equivalent to about $300,000 to $20,000 today. What made Nazimova truly remarkable was her artistic vision. She used her wealth and influence to produce her own films, including a stylized version of Oscar Wilde's Salome that featured elaborate Art Nouveau sets and costumes designed by Natasha Rambova, who later married Rudolph Valentino. The film was considered too artistic for mainstream audiences, but is now recognized as an important early example of art cinema in America. 17. Marlene Dietrich. With a career that spanned 8 decades, from the 1910s to the 1980s, Marlene Dietrich was one of the most prolific Hollywood actresses of her time. Throughout her career, she carefully crafted her professional image while keeping her private life out of the public eye as much as possible. She was bisexual and frequented gay bars and drag balls in Berlin in the 1920s. She was a gender bender before the term was even invented. She didn't care about abiding by cultural norms and dated whomever she pleased. Her masculinity appealed to women, while her intense sexuality was irresistible to men. After moving to the U.S. and becoming a massive film star, she had affairs with countless men and women. Some of her alleged romantic partners were Greta Garbo, Mercedes de Acosta, Talula Bankhead, Edith Piaf, and Claudette Colbert. Dietrich's career was marked by reinvention. She began in silent German films before being discovered by director Joseph von Sternberg, who cast her in The Blue Angel. Her performance as the cabaret singer Lola Lola, who destroys the life of a repressed professor, made her an international star overnight. In Hollywood, she continued to work with von Sternberg on a series of visually stunning films that established her iconic look. The eyebrows plucked into thin arches, the cheekbones accentuated with shadow, the languid sensuality that seemed both inviting and distant. During World War II, Dietrich became an American citizen and was a passionate anti-Nazi. She performed for Allied troops near the front lines, sold war bonds, and recorded anti-Nazi broadcasts in German. Hitler, who had once been an admirer, declared her a traitor. Her response? "I was born a German, and I'll always be a German. But Hitler isn't Germany." 18. Grace Kelly. Grace Kelly's status as an elegant and proper-seeming star has a lot to do with the fact that she became a literal princess when she married Prince Rainier III of Monaco in 1956. She was a gorgeous and glamorous movie star, and despite only acting in 11 films, she's remembered as a sophisticated and classy icon from the golden age of Hollywood. Yet before joining the monarchy in Monaco, Grace knew how to have fun. She never felt tied down by the restrictions of society when it came to romance, and she reportedly enjoyed the company of many handsome Hollywood types, including many of her famous co-stars. It started when she starred in High Noon with Gary Cooper. Cooper was 28 years older than Kelly and married at the time, but the two started up a romance while the movie was in production. These two tendencies, being involved with a much older man and being involved with a married man, were ones she continued having later. When she filmed Mogambo in Africa, she had an affair with another older star, Clark Gable. She later admitted she'd taken the job to work with director John Ford and to be in Africa, but another huge pull was the chance to work alongside Gable. Regarding their affair, Grace was once quoted as saying, "What else is there to do if you're alone in a tent in Africa with Clark Gable?" Kelly had flings and affairs with various co-stars over the next years, including Bing Crosby, Marlon Brando, Ray Milland, and Oleg Cassini. She even dated another older royal, Prince Ali Khan, who was the leader of the Nizari Ismailis Muslims. Clearly, Grace was ready to settle down when she met and fell in love with Prince Rainier. But before that, Grace had thoroughly enjoyed herself with a slew of exciting romances. Kelly's transformation from Hollywood actress to princess was like a fairy tale come to life. Her wedding to Prince Rainier was watched by an estimated 30 million people on television, and her wedding dress inspired bridal fashion for decades. 19th. Judy Garland. Judy Garland, a name synonymous with the golden age of Hollywood, was a star who shined brightly on the silver screen. But her journey to stardom was marked by personal struggles, professional challenges, and a series of relationships that have been the subject of much speculation. Born Frances Ethel Gumm, Garland was thrust into the limelight at a young age. Her mother, a controlling stage mom, was instrumental in shaping her into a star. Garland was signed by MGM at age 13, and her life was forever changed. Her time with MGM was marked by a grueling schedule, a diet of pills, and constant pressure to lose weight. She often made 2 or 3 movies at a time, and her health suffered as a result. Despite these challenges, her talent shined through, and she quickly rose to stardom. But her personal life was fraught with difficulties. She was married 5 times, and her relationships were often the subject of media scrutiny. According to one of her husband's biographies, Garland was frequently approached by some of Hollywood's most powerful men. Her story isn't just about her relationships, though. It's about a talented actress who navigated the challenging landscape of Hollywood with determination. Her performances in films like The Wizard of Oz and A Star is Born are a testament to her talent and enduring appeal. Garland's struggles with addiction began when the studio gave her pills to help her sleep and wake up, maintaining the grueling film schedule. This led to lifelong battles with substance abuse. She attempted suicide several times throughout her life, showing the depth of her inner pain. 20. Marilyn Monroe. Marilyn Monroe, the quintessential blonde bombshell and one of the most iconic figures in Hollywood history, has long been the subject of speculation and controversy. Her rise to stardom was meteoric, but it was also fraught with challenges. Born Norma Jean Mortensen, Monroe was a symbol of beauty and sensuality, and her personal life was as much a part of her fame as her acting career. According to a biography by Darwin Porter, an award-winning film historian, Monroe had a brief relationship with actor Rock Hudson when she was still a struggling starlet. Monroe allegedly advised Hudson that they needed to connect with more influential people in Hollywood to find fame, saying, "Both of us will have to work hard to get ahead in this town." That advice, as sensational as it may sound, was reportedly taken to heart by Hudson, who pursued relationships with some of the biggest stars and did favors for influential figures in the industry. Monroe, too, was rumored to have had affairs with powerful men in Hollywood. Either way, Monroe was an incredibly talented actress, a complex woman, and a symbol of a bygone era. Her life was marked by triumphs and tragedies, and her legacy continues to captivate people around the world. Monroe's relationships included baseball legend Joe DiMaggio and playwright Arthur Miller, both of whom she married. Her rumored affair with President John F. Kennedy has become the stuff of legend, particularly after her sultry rendition of Happy Birthday to him at Madison Square Garden. What's often overlooked about Monroe is her intelligence and business savvy. Tired of being typecast in dumb blonde roles, she broke her studio contract and moved to New York to study acting with Lee Strasberg at the prestigious Actors Studio. She then returned to Hollywood and started her own production company, virtually unheard of for actresses at that time. 21. Rita Hayworth. Rita Hayworth was marketed as the love goddess of Hollywood in the 1940s, and her image was one of the most famous pin-ups during World War II. Her famous hair toss in Gilda, 1946, became one of cinema's most iconic moments. But behind the glamorous facade was a woman whose real life was far from the romantic fantasies she portrayed on screen. Born Margarita Carmen Cancino to a Spanish father and American mother, she began performing as a child in her father's dancing act. She entered films as a teenager, but was initially typecast in small roles that emphasized her Latin heritage. It wasn't until Columbia Pictures head Harry Cohn took an interest in her that her career began to take off. After she underwent painful electrolysis to raise her hairline and dyed her naturally black hair red to downplay her Spanish roots. Hayworth's love life was a series of disappointments. She was married 5 times, including to director Orson Welles and Prince Ali Khan, making her a real-life princess years before Grace Kelly. None of these marriages brought her lasting happiness. Her daughter with Welles, Rebecca, later revealed that Hayworth had been sexually abused by her father as a child, which likely contributed to her difficulties with men and relationships throughout her life. 22. Lana Turner. Lana Turner's rise to fame has the quality of a Hollywood fable. Discovered at 16 while drinking a soda at Schwab's Pharmacy on Sunset Boulevard, though some versions of the story place her at the Top Hat Cafe. Her tight sweater earned her the nickname the Sweater Girl, and she quickly became one of MGM's most bankable stars. Turner's off-screen life was as dramatic as any film she starred in. She was married 8 times to 7 different men, leading one wit to remark, "Lana's life is just like a sweater. She pulls it on, then off, then on again." Her tempestuous relationships made her a regular in the gossip columns. The most notorious chapter in Turner's life came in 1958, when her 14-year-old daughter, Cheryl Crane, stabbed and killed Turner's boyfriend, mobster Johnny Stompanato, in what was ruled a justifiable homicide. Crane was protecting her mother from Stompanato's violent abuse. The scandal threatened to derail Turner's career, but she gave one of her finest performances that same year in Imitation of Life, which became a massive hit. Turner's friends described her as a warm, generous woman who was unlucky in love. Despite her many marriages, she maintained that she was a romantic at heart who never stopped believing in true love. Her film career spanned 4 decades, and she successfully transitioned to television in the 1980s, appearing in the popular series Falcon Crest. 23rd. Inger Stevens. Swedish-born Inger Stevens achieved fame in the 1960s with her role in the TV series The Farmer's Daughter, and appearances in films alongside stars like Clint Eastwood and Burt Reynolds. Her blonde beauty and talent made her a rising star in Hollywood, but her personal life was marked by secrecy and, ultimately, tragedy. What most of the public didn't know during her lifetime was that Stevens had secretly married Ike Jones, an African-American actor and producer, in 1961. Due to the racial tensions of the era, they kept their marriage hidden, fearing it would damage her career. The marriage was only revealed after her death. Stevens struggled with depression throughout much of her adult life. She had attempted suicide in 1959, survived, and seemed to recover. Sadly, on April 30, 1970, at just 35 years old, she died of an overdose of barbiturates. Her husband, Ike Jones, had to fight a legal battle with her family to be recognized as her widower, eventually winning the case. The secrecy around her interracial marriage highlights the social pressures facing Hollywood stars in the 1960s. Despite the progressive image Hollywood sometimes projected, the reality for actors was that certain personal choices could end careers. Stevens's story is a reminder of how recently such prejudices dominated American society, even in supposedly liberal Hollywood.